Hello and welcome everybody to today's show, the long anticipated. It seems like a really long time now that we're doing these only once a month. But you guys, I have some pretty exciting news about this podcast and a huge thank you to all of you guys. But before I go there, I am your host, Mel. I am currently the Vice President of Sales over here at Bree Health, and I bring you guys over 2 decades in the live events and the virtual event space. I have a master's in education, but truly, you guys, my passion is to educate and invest in every single person. I love mentoring and investing in people. People are my passion. And so that's why I created this show along with my team here at Bree Health, is to spend some quality time with you guys every single month and really just be a force for good and to give back. So if you guys are new to the show, please do me a favor, whether you're streaming in on social media platforms or right here in our Zoom room, go ahead and let me know where you're calling in from. Maybe you should drop your title to us, or maybe the company name if you want to shout out. But we welcome you guys. I have a full show for you, and I know you guys have seen us marketing our guest speaker. It's going to be an amazing, mind-blowing show. So let's go ahead and get to it, you guys. First off, just to set you guys up for success, as always, we want to make sure that you're not missing anything that we're putting out there in between the shows. As you know, the show happens every third Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you probably don't get those notifications if you're only following us on social media. So a couple of housekeeping items really quick. If you're following us right now, here are all the accounts. My team is going to drop these into the chat box or the Q&A or the news feed online right now. Go ahead and follow us over on Bree Health on YouTube as we're growing our new YouTube account. You can catch all of our past episodes. We launched this in May, so there are several episodes that you can go and get caught up on, as well as if you're tuning in, which is most of our people, on LinkedIn. Go ahead and follow my personal profile on LinkedIn as well as Bree Health, and we put out lots of content, really good stuff in between our shows, and we don't want you guys to miss that out or miss out on that. And then also for those of you guys who are not registered in the Zoom room, it is the best place for you guys to stream in on these, just to make sure that you're seeing every single notification and reminder about the show. But also, we give out a free gift after every single show, and that is a gift that we send to you that is specific to what you can apply in the workplace, a lesson that comes out of this, tangible, tactical things that you can apply based off of the masterclass or based off of the podcast discussion. We want you guys to be able to go back and apply that in the workplace. And so in order to get that content, you've got to be registered into the Zoom room so that we can get your guys' email to send that gift over to you after every single show. So go ahead and click and follow all the links my team is going to drop right now in the chat box, and let's get connected, you guys. All right. How many of you guys tuned in to, gosh, what month are we in? June's show. When you work in sales, you really forget what month you're currently in, right? So last month, you guys, first off, it was my very first experience at SHRM's annual massive event in Las Vegas. It was so overwhelming and exciting, but I was given the most amazing opportunity at SHRM to go live with you guys for our show last month, where I got to sit down with 3 special guests who were actually these SHRM influencers, which is kind of a really cool title, you guys. And so if you missed that show, just let us know you want to see the replay. Type in replay in the chat box and our team will send over that link to you guys. Or again, you can catch it on our YouTube channel or on my personal profile on LinkedIn or Bree Health. But last month, we covered everything that we were talking about, every single breakout session, general session, the themes and the topics of what was going on inside of the SHRM, community. And it was everything from what did the experience feel and look like, and you should get there next year if you haven't already bought your ticket, to really, you know, talking about retention in the workplace and should we require degrees, the top skill sets that employers are going to start looking for and hiring for, soft skills in 2024, and then all of the changes, like the constant of change post-COVID. We went over all of these topics. It was incredible information and an incredible experience. Please give some love to every single one of my guests, you guys. Right here, you can connect with Bruce and Jeff and Caitlin, who are my guests. Again, they are your SHRM, National SHRM influencing team. And so, so much love to you guys. It was such a blast. And I know that lots of people loved that show. Well, you guys know I love to connect and be live, and I love to get out from behind this camera, and I love to meet people. So the next opportunity, always have a ticket, by the way, always have a ticket to your next event. It is that connectivity, that intimacy of just being in the room, you guys. Don't underestimate it. And so not only do I have my ticket to AZ SHRM 2023 annual conference happening right here in my home, Phoenix, Arizona, August 29th through September 1st. But I also have secured a booth in the expo hall. They haven't given me my booth number yet, you guys, but please stop into the expo hall right now. Do me a favor and hashtag AZSHRM in the chat box on LinkedIn, wherever you're following and tuning in from right now. So number one, I know that you're going to be there, and we can set up a time to maybe grab a drink, have dinner, or at least connect. But number two, I want to see who else is going, who's all local that tunes in right here from Phoenix, Arizona, a chance for us to connect and get to know each other on a deeper level outside of social media and outside of the Be Well with Mel show. So come say hi to me, you guys. I'm very excited to connect with all of my locals. All right, so what in the heck is the show? I know we have newbies every single week, especially a huge thank you to all of our guest speakers who bring a whole new audience to the show. I'm very, very thankful. But this is a live show that we do every third Tuesday of every single month at 2 p.m. Eastern. It is live. It is not pre-recorded. So you've got to make sure that you set that time aside and make sure that you guys tune in. We have gotten amazing feedback on your guys' takeaways on these conversations that we're having. So welcome to our inner circle if you guys are new. And if you guys are a loyal listener and you tune in, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This show is taking off with much more success, you guys, than we thought, faster than we thought. And so our gratitude for all of the people that play a part in this, especially my team here at Bree Health behind the scenes. But what we do with this, you guys, is we are specific to the HR industry, mental health. We are bringing industry experts and thought leaders to have real life personal experience, success stories, talk about challenges and best practices. And we're here to just be a force for good in the industry. And we want to talk about what's really happening in the workplace, what's happening in that HR role of yours, what's happening in the minds and the lives of your employees. And we want to be able to give back. And that's what the show is all about. As I said before, I am the Vice President of Bree Health, and this show is sponsored and produced with my team. You guys, an amazing marketing team, an amazing production team that puts this all together. But Bree Health is providing you guys with barrier-free access to the best mental health and life services on the market. It is our heart, it is our mission, you guys, to get employees help, mental health help. That's hard to say. In the moment where they need it, when they need it most. And so if you want to learn more about Bree, this is a free show. We'll never sell our Bree product and platform to you guys on this show, and we're never going to charge you for anything. But if you want to learn more, if you need to get these resources, life coaching and help with solutions to your employees, then please just follow the link. My team's going to drop it right here, breehealth.com. You can watch a quick 2-minute video and learn all about how we're able to meet your employees and workplaces' mental health needs. All right, moving on, you guys. As I said, it's our mission and our vision here. We bring over 40 years of experience in the mental health and employee benefits space. And so we're bringing you guys innovative technology, and we just want to get people connected, and we want people to be able to get the support that they need. Our mission is just to be a force for good. That's what's behind this entire show. Now, to make our attorneys happy, I do have to put out this broadcast disclaimer about our show. The content of the show, you guys, is proprietary and it is property of Bree Health. And we make absolutely no promises or guarantees about the information that we share or the content that we're putting out here, because we're really just drawing from personal opinions and experiences and recommendations. All right, some of my favorite parts of the show are the social media spotlights. So if you guys want to play a part in this, as I'm building the show, I'm really trying to make this an interactive show. I don't want it to be about us talking to you the whole entire time. I really want to get to know my community. So if you're following me on LinkedIn and you come across a post during the week or during the month in between our two shows that would really be, a great piece of content for me to discuss or to show our audience and share, and we can have a little conversation about it, a discussion about it, tag me in that post. I have a loyal follower, Justin Davis, if you are listening today, who tags me, and I just love the content that you bring to me because we don't always see it, right? So if it's HR related, if it is show related, mental health related, you guys, and it's a great post that you think we should highlight, please just tag at Mel Abella on LinkedIn, and I will get it featured right here on our show. So moving forward, let's talk about today's social media spotlight. This was given by Christopher. I've put his handle over here. His mission is to transform patients' lives. And I just love this. So simple, right? Such a simple piece of content, but so powerful. And it had me thinking, let's have some food for thought today on this. So it said, fostering mental health in the workplace is a responsibility. It's not a trend. So let's think about that really quick. We know that there is this really big trend going on right now about the mental health crisis in America, in the world, to be honest with you, but we're right here in the States. We talk about this trend, but how much do we really do about it? And if I'm going to be super honest with you guys, and I'm overly transparent in sharing things, it's kind of been under my skin lately, especially because I work in this field, and I work in the field of sales and mental health. And that is that everybody wants to talk about it, but nobody actually wants to support people and do anything about it. And I don't want to say nobody. So for those of you who are doing that, that was a very broad statement. I apologize, but not enough of us are doing something about it to support our families, to support our workplaces, to support ourselves, right? And so doesn't every company depend on the state of their employees' mental health in order to drive optimal performance in the workplace? That's what I want to challenge, and I kind of want to start a conversation on. So why don't you guys chime in? Let's keep this conversation going. Drop it in the chat box, drop it on social media. Let's keep the conversation going on what are your thoughts about fostering mental health in the workplace is not a responsibility. I'm sorry, it is a responsibility and it's not a trend. I want to hear from you guys, so go ahead and drop it in. Well, normally, you guys, at this part of the show, I am out asking who is my next guest, but I actually have some pretty exciting news for you guys. I don't know if you saw it on social media, but let's just take a minute and think about the timeline of Be Well with Mel. I came up with this idea of this live show back in February. Back in March. And in May, my team had already created and produced and was ready to launch our very first show on May. It was Mental Health Awareness Month. I think it was the second week of May we launched it, or the third week of May. And you guys, here we are in July. And our show, I can say, has fully booked out every single guest speaker for the entire rest of 2023 and January of 2024. So a huge round of applause, number one, to the team that helped me with this. But number two, to every single guest speaker. The response and the outreach for you guys to want to be a speaker on the show was just mind-blowing. And we are, again, so thankful. So we are still taking applications for people who would love to be a guest on our show and feel like you could bring, something really valuable to our audience. However, just know that the next show opening isn't until February of 2024, which gives you lots of time to prepare. So thank you guys again for that. We're really excited. All right, so I know you guys are super excited and ready for us to dive into today's lesson, and I am ready to, you guys. But before, I just got to give this guy some clout. You guys, top speaker at SHRM 23 in Las Vegas this year. And he and I connected right afterwards, and the amazing response that this man got for what he taught the HR leaders and the industry at SHRM 23 was mind-blowing. In fact, he had standing room only in every single one of his sessions. And he came back to dozens of emails that said, how do I hear your message again? And I missed it. How do I hear it? So I said, let's take it to the online world. And he and I partnered up. And you guys, today I'm going to be introducing you to Scott. Scott, you guys, is an FBI trained hostage negotiator, professional keynote speaker, and the partner of the Negotiations Collective, an international negotiations training firm. And Scott holds a current master's degree in psychology, a bachelor's degree in behavioral science, and has received negotiations training at Harvard University program on negotiation and at IMD School of Business, recognized as a leader in the field of negotiation, communication, influence and conflict resolution. Scott's visibility as a speaker and educator through TEDx and other venues has reached global status. You guys, this is my guest speaker. I'm just still blown away by the level of expertise that we are getting to show up on this show. Oh my gosh, it's mind-blowing. Thank you, Lord. He passionately trains professionals of all backgrounds by delivering knowledge and skills they need to find confidence and success. I don't know about you guys, but those icky, really uncomfortable situations that we don't only have to have in our own personal life that bring up conflict and just uncomfortable, situations, but they happen in the workplace. And if you're an HR director or manager, we know that you get, you're in front of these conversations all the time. So today he's going to bring us a masterclass to teach us his methodologies and the ways that he navigates this to be successful. All right, so without further ado, please put your hands together. There are hand emojis, by the way, so you can use those on LinkedIn as well as the Zoom room. Put your hands together for today's guest speaker, Scott Tillema. Scott, go ahead and join us. We have been waiting since last month at SHRM, the long anticipated month-long wait.
How are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you. Thank you. First off, I have to say here, you don't know this about me. I am, or maybe you do, but I don't think I shared it with you. I am a daughter of a former lieutenant in the California Highway Patrol and a sister to a former sergeant in Paso Robles. So thank you for, first off, for you, your team, everybody out in the force, for everything you do to protect our communities. We are forever grateful for everything.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
So, thank you. Well, talk to us first off a little bit about, I know the HR industry for you is a new kind of sector that you've kind of tapped into with your experience.
Yeah, so I am a professional keynote speaker. I talk to people about my work as a crisis and hostage negotiator. Now, I would hope that nobody in your audience is going to be leading a hostage negotiation anytime soon, but people who are having difficult conversations find really, a great value in what we teach. And who better than people in the HR world to connect with to say, I want to share with you how I get through these life or death conversations so you can take these same techniques and tactics to find more success in the work that you're doing. And just recently, we've connected with this HR market, and it's been wonderful because here are a bunch of people who are really good at dealing with people. They're already very skilled at having conversations. They're doing it all the time. So it's not really so much that we're teaching them negotiation and conflict resolution, but really maybe changing their perspective a little bit for when they walk out of the keynote or the training, they can say, you know what, I haven't thought of it that way before, or this is just a new perspective for me. And it's been a lot of fun starting to get to meet all the folks. I was at Sherm out in Vegas last month. We had 2 sessions that were packed, sold out room. Just got back from HR Houston, had a great time down in Texas, hanging out at that conference, speaking again. And I'm excited to continue the journey into HR. And thanks for inviting me here.
Yes, I know that our audience is, I'm watching it on social media as we've been marketing this for the last couple of weeks, and the responses of the excitement to hear this. They just love walking away with tangible things that they can apply in the workplace. And so super excited. But before we dive into it, you just said something that kind of made me think. I actually got 2 phone calls in the last month in regards to my Bree Health solution after a crisis situation had already happened. And so I say that because we don't ever want to hear that they are getting in the situation. But I think it's happening more and more in the workplace, and they are freaking out. Like, I don't have another, the two individuals who, 2 separate companies that called me was like, we didn't know what to do in the situation. And not only did it throw them for a loop and as a leadership team or as a management team, but it took the entire organization for weeks off course because of the trauma of what happened. So super excited that maybe if these 2 individuals just so happen to be our companies, happen to be tuning in today, that they can take away some good, tangible things, and you can help them if this ever happens.
Right. And they're not alone. There are workplaces across the country, around the world, and they have a significant stress because everybody is in crisis. Everybody is emotional and there's breakdowns. And when I gave a TED talk in 2016, and I led that talk by saying we live in a world full of people in crisis. And the context was right around the US presidential election. And the thought was, 2016 is going to come and go, and then everybody's going to chill out, and then we're going to get back to normal functioning and be a polite, happy society. But it's just been crisis after crisis, and politics are nasty. And I mean, there's just a lot of negative stuff going on. So I think that this talk, this idea, this approach is still very relevant, if not now, even more so now than before.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you got for us today? I kind of teed it up that you had a master class of methodologies that we could apply. So where do we start?
Yeah, so I want to share 4 techniques that people can use, they can apply right now, take them and go with them. And hopefully it's going to make their lives easier. It's going to turn these difficult conversations from something that we fear into tremendous opportunities to find success in our work, in our relationships, and with the people we serve. So let's start off with one of the most important things that I've learned in having difficult conversations. And it's this: manage yourself first. So often we come in, we're trying to be influencers, we're trying to move people in the direction we want to go. And we've got a plan. If you're successful, you're going to prepare and get ready for these conversations. And the secret is these are stressful. And when we are under stress, we perform differently. We're not as creative, we don't listen as well, we kind of get that tunnel vision. And instead of worrying about getting just to this outcome and controlling somebody else, we have to begin by managing ourselves. And there's so much that throw us off track when we're trying to manage ourselves. We see on social media all the time triggers. People are triggered all the time, and they have these over the top reactions. And if you're one of these people, you have to have this question of, how is this serving me? Because in these conversations, it's not about being right. It's not about your ego. It's reaching an acceptable outcome. Where are we trying to go? So am I triggered? Is this the right time for me to respond? Is this person I'm talking to, are they triggered? Can they even hear what I'm saying and process that if they're in a really high stress situation? And sometimes getting a meeting with HR in and of itself can be a trigger to say, what's going on? Am I being fired? Am I being demoted? It's not probably good news, and it certainly doesn't happen every day. So making sure that people are in a position where they can process that. But also managing yourself could simply be, what if I'm wrong?
Mm,
What if I see it incorrectly? What if I don't have complete information? Are we willing to ask ourselves, hey, what if I'm wrong? What if I get this wrong? Because I know I've had bad outcomes in negotiations, and in my world, we really can't have bad outcomes. So we have to do everything we can to make sure, hey, we get all the information so we can. The better we understand the problem, the better solutions we're going to come up with, and the more effective we're going to be. So I think that if we can begin by managing ourselves, how we show up, how we are verbally, how we are non-verbally, I think that the nonverbals are so important in conversation because we can be great listeners, we can do all those communication techniques just right, but if we don't look the part, people are going to believe only what they see. So we got to make sure that we've got those the gestures, the facial expressions, the body language, the posture, all that right, because when you're having a conversation that's consequential, every detail matters.
wow. So this brings up a personal story that totally relates. And it reminds me, I don't remember what birthday was. I'd have to do math because off of the top of my head, I don't remember what year it was. But whenever the Rodney King stuff was happening down in LA, my father missed my birthday and was there. And I remember right after that, this was pre cops being recorded, like, right? You didn't have, like, there was zero accountability in that. My dad decided to put a tape recorder on him after the Rodney King stuff. And he just chose to do it because he said he had an aha moment that he was human and that he was going to have bad days. Like something might happen on the way to work, or something might have happened in our home that day, or my brother and I might have, like, been teenagers, whatever. And that he constantly had to manage himself because he was human. And so he didn't know how that might come off or appear or show up when he was on a stop. And I'll never forget him telling that story, that it kept him in check. So I wonder if we could come up, and I don't know if in the moment we're this good, Scott, but maybe you are, something that HR people could kind of keep themselves in check. Like that kept my dad knowing you had to leave everything on the outside of your world. And when you showed up in that situation, you had to be a player. You had to represent the badge. You couldn't be human and also be a father and a husband and all these other things that you were. You had to show up and manage everything you said, your demeanor, your body, exactly what you're saying. So I don't know if we can come off the cuff with this one. I don't mean to challenge us, but do you have
I
any?
like I like that, and let's think on that. The idea of accountability is so important, and it kind of comes back to my philosophy on negotiation. So often we think it's just about me. It's not about you. It's about everybody else that you represent in your team, in your organization, in your business. Um, People sometimes ask about negotiation, say, hey, well, I get nervous negotiating for myself. I said, change your mindset. I don't negotiate for me, I
Mm.
negotiate for we. And when you have that mindset that you're representing a bigger cause or a bigger group than just yourself, all of a sudden everything changes because now you're accountable to the people that you're serving.
So what I'm taking away is perspective is a big deal.
I think so. I
Wow.
think so. And just having that front of mind to say if you lose it and you have a breakdown and you start using the wrong language or the wrong demeanor, it's not just about you to say, okay, well, that's just Scott having a bad day. No, no, that reflects upon all of us. And I think we're truly in an era now where any single employee has the power to bring down an entire business. And we've seen some pretty notable examples of how single employee decisions, and these don't even have to be top C-level people.
Right.
Any individual really has the power. And that's what shifted in society in the last decade or so, that workers, individuals are empowered through social media. They can get out there and share some of these secrets that companies don't want out there. And think how empowering that is to each individual, which really demonstrates the need for making sure that each of these conversations is rooted in respect. It's around connection and bonding, and that the people who are there choose to be there. They want to be there. They're not coming in because they're forced to be there, feel like they're being held hostage.
Yeah, so that brings me to, I don't know, in crisis, in your negotiation training and what you do, we say in real life, like you have to manage emotions and stick to facts, right? Like when you're dealing with things, you got to stick to facts, leave the emotion out of it. Is that part of this? Or this is that like doesn't even
I'll tell you from everything I've read and studied, the professors at Harvard went to work, they did the research and said 95% of our decisions are made in the subconscious, driven by emotion. Chicago Booth, one of the top business schools in the country, just released their findings. 90% of our decisions are driven by emotion. It shows we are emotional people. And for those who come in with facts, figures, data, and numbers, and they're just going to convince you with this, that's not how we make decisions. So, not to say that that's irrelevant. They say that we make decisions with emotion, then go back and justify it with logic and reason and facts and figures. So we look smart, and it makes us feel like we are very thoughtful in that decision. But if most of our decisions are driven by emotion, why do we feel that now that we're in the workplace that we can't be emotional people? That people who are struggling with mental health, well, there's something wrong with them. That's not the case at all. All of us are experiencing emotion, all of us. And some of us are more willing to share that than others. But if there's one person out there that's listening to us chat that has not gone through stress, anxiety, loss, grief, trauma in the last couple of years, I want them to call me up so we can hang out, because the rest of us are going through stuff on the best of days.
Yeah.
So emotions are a very, very real part of how we connect with people, how we influence, how we lead. And in HR, we're leaders. You're out there leading your organizations. You are the chief people officers. You need to be so good at understanding emotions, what drives emotions, what drives decisions. And we don't teach facts and figures and data and things like this. We teach the emotional drivers and what are the core concerns. And I think once you get good at recognizing your own emotion and connecting with the emotions of others, now you're really finding that influence that you're looking for.
And I think that's probably, if we really drill down, the person experiencing or causing the conflict or the escalated situation that requires the negotiation really just wants connectivity and really just wants people to understand them. They really kind of need that emotion, because maybe it's the lack of emotion that they're not, that's causing the conflict or the situation in the first place. Not to go down a tangent on that, but you just made me think of it the opposite way. Wow, maybe they actually need emotion, not facts and
I
facts.
teach I teach negotiators across the country, around the world, and when I'm teaching proper hostage and crisis negotiations to those type of negotiators, I tell them your goal is not to free the hostages. Your goal is not to get the person to put the gun down. Your goal is to form a bond, to form a connection.
Mhm.
And when we do these scenarios, it's not just classroom training. We are building skills. And when we give them that coaching right there, all of a sudden it goes from drop the knife, put the knife down, I order you to drop the knife, please stop, say your goal is to form a connection. All of a sudden everything changes, and it's, hey, my name is Scott, what's your name? It looks like you're having a rough day, share with me what's going on. And all of a sudden it becomes conversational. All of a sudden the tone comes down, everything changes. So when you have the mindset, my goal here is to form a connection,
I love that.
we approach it very differently. And to your point that you were speaking on earlier, maybe we can avoid some of these big meltdowns, these big emotional outbursts, if we have the mindset that not only are we going to create connection, but I want to, across the world, create a culture of connection where we feel each other, where we build these relationships. And I think that'll fix a lot of the problems right there, because the outliers that we're seeing are these unbonded people. Think of all these terrible things that are happening in the world. How would that be different if they were bonded in with the broader society and these broader groups? I think that is a really, really important goal, not only to resolve conflict, but to maybe avoid it entirely.
And that's a big focus in the HR community, culture in the workplace. And that's a great, I know we're only on number one. Sorry, guys, you might be hanging out longer than an hour today. But that's a big one, because you're right. Maybe the crisis situation or the escalation wouldn't happen if they were able to feel comfortable enough to constantly talk through this as it was building, instead of something building quietly behind the scenes and exploding, right? So that's a good takeaway. I don't know about you guys, but I'm taking notes. I love being the student during this. So number one was manage yourself. What's number two?
So I think it rolls perfectly to where we're at in this conversation. Number two is be a great listener. Be a great listener. So I remember in 2007, I was chosen to be a hostage negotiator on a regional SWAT team in the Chicago area. One of the coolest moments ever, right? And then you get to go to the training class. So I was trained by FBI agents, and they were showing me how the FBI negotiates. And I'm like, this is going to be so cool, right? And I have in my mind, they're going to teach me exactly what to say that I can make anybody do anything I want them to do. And I got this little magic wand now. So, I mean, imagine my disappointment on the first day of the class when they started teaching us the 8 skills of active listening. I said, okay. And then on day 2, we're doing listening exercises. Day 3, we're doing listening exercises. Day 5, guess what we're doing again? More listening exercises. And I'm
Action.
like, I'm a grown up. I'm a professional. I don't need this. I know how to communicate, right? But you realize that most of us haven't had training in how to be great listeners. We haven't practiced being listeners. And all of a sudden, you're sitting back to back with somebody, and the rest of the class is in a big circle around you watching. Okay, the pressure's on, and maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I was. So, when we talk about being a great listener, everybody says that. I mean, there's nothing unique about this, but we get into these different techniques of listening. And I think without getting into the 8 hours of what they all are, I think a couple highlights are asking good questions. I think that's the most important skill that you can have, good open-ended questions, because if we want to create dialogue, how are we going to do that if I'm just the one talking? And when we're under pressure, we're not able to really think on our feet as much. So if I'm going into a tough conversation, or I were coaching somebody who's going into a tough conversation, I want you to write down 10 open-ended questions that can create dialogue that you can throw out there at any time. And I think that's going to make that conversation a little bit easier. And I think that what you were saying just before this, that people want to be heard. They
Mhm.
just want to share this, that they're releasing the stress, but why not do it in a little bit more constructive way by asking good questions, engaging them? And then the other great active listening skill to pair with asking good questions is emotion labeling. That we're not responding to the content of what's being said, but we're responding to the emotion behind it. And I have found in a variety of situations, we can connect with that emotion. You sound, I sense, you seem, and then pick your emotion. And check out the emotion wheel. There's 150 emotions on this thing called emotion wheel, bright colors. Check it out. It's online. And you hit that emotion just right, that people can finally take a breath, because that's the moment where they realize,
Uh,
Mel gets it. You
yeah.
get me. I can stop raging and yelling and screaming because finally somebody gets how I feel. But we get stuck in responding to that content with the words they're saying, the questions they're asking, and it's sometimes a lot easier to say, "Hey, you know what? You sound really upset right now. You sound really angry. You sound very jealous, very annoyed, withdrawn." I mean, pick your emotion, and that's very validating for people to say, "Hey, somebody gets me."
They want to be understood.
Yeah.
They're seeking to be understood. And when we combat it, sometimes we're not giving them what they're looking for. And they just really want to be heard, and they want to understand. They want you to know that you have empathy towards whatever it is that they're dealing with or seeing. Two things sparked. Number one, the 80-20 rule in life. Does it apply here or not? Is it they're talking 80%, we're 20? Like, does that even apply, or not something that applies in
I,
negotiation?
I don't, I'm not going to put down percentages on this, because every conversation's different. Every
Okay.
person's different. And if I'm going to be working with an introvert and I'm going to try to get them talking 80% of the time, or I'm working with an extrovert and I'm going to be talking 80% of the time, we're going to have some issues. So in these conversations, it's not about us. Have a whole variety of tools that we can use, and be flexible, be willing to adjust your style, be willing to adapt for the situation, for the purpose, for that conversation. And I think a lot of people just get stuck in, this is the way I communicate, this is the way I do business. I got 5 different ways I can negotiate. I've got different approaches I can take every time, because this might not work for this person this time.
Wow, it's not cookie cutter. That's a great takeaway. It's not cookie cutter. Every situation's different. Well, I do my homework a little bit, a lot actually. Before I have a guest on, and I did watch your TEDx. It was on
Awesome.
YouTube, and not quite sure where it
Mhm.
was at. But you said in that it's what you say. I mean, it's not what you say; it's how you say it. You really
Boom.
drove that point home. So, can you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit on that?
So here it is. That's tactic number 3.
Oh,
Master
I
the
stole it.
delivery. We got it. It's
I
see
so
how it flows though. I mean, this flows from managing ourselves to being a listener. And now as it's our turn to share, let's be thoughtful on not what we say, but how we say it. And it's been shown over and over when people are debriefed after these crisis standoffs with law enforcement, they're asked what was said, what was done or said that got you to do whatever and come out and surrender. And most of them say, I don't remember really what you were saying, um, but I really liked how you were saying it. I felt comfortable in how you were talking to me. And that's so revealing because in a year from now, anybody who's listening today, they're not going to remember the details of this talk. But if you ask them, well, how did you feel about this? They're going to remember how they felt. If you come to this conference and to my session, you might not remember all the details, but you're going to remember, hey, this was exciting. This was interesting. This was whatever emotion was tied to that. So, how do we make people feel the way they feel by our delivery? And it's more than just being nice or talking nice or just being kind with our words. I think that we can coach on specific points of the delivery. And to share a little bit about our world in SWAT negotiations, it's not like you see in the movies where you got Denzel Washington walking around on a cell phone
join
looking
us.
good up and down New York City. Like we're working with a team of 8 of us. And
Yeah.
if I'm the person on the phone, the primary negotiator, you're my coach. You're sitting right across from me. We have a negotiator dedicated to coaching me. That's how important this is. And you're managing my delivery to make sure that everything I say is really smooth. So you're looking at the rate, the rhythm, the pressure, the volume, and the tone of what I'm saying. I call it my gold star delivery, 5 points on the star, 5 points on delivery. And these
I
are
mean,
all things
can
that
we
we
list
can
those one
adjust.
more time? Rate.
Yeah, the rate,
Mhm.
the rhythm, the pressure, the volume, and the tone. So rate is, are we too fast or too slow? If we're too slow, we lose people's attention. If we're too fast, we can't process that. The rhythm, everything we say feels the same way. You kind of get into building this psychological safety so the person's comfortable. They're not worried that you're going to be all over the place. The pressure, when we get anxious, we put pressure behind our words. And when I start hearing pressure behind people's words, we got to go back and say, okay, what was just done or said that notched up that anxiety? And let's fix that. And the volume, people think that we can't speak quietly without power and authority, and you sure can. You can be very, very firm and a very, very soft voice. And I think it's interesting because we mirror each other in conversation. So I'll sometimes challenge people, hey, bring it down. And the tonality, we know bad tone when we hear it, right? Of course, we know bad tone when we hear it, but our tonality is feeling our words. And we're not just these stiff robots chat GPTing back and forth. I want to know that you're feeling me and you're here and you're an emotional person connecting with my emotions as well. So that's just a quick insight to the importance of
Yeah.
focusing on the delivery. Now, I don't want anybody to walk out of here and be like, hey, I was just listening to Scott. He told me I can say whatever I want as long as I say it nicely. It's cool. Not what I'm saying at all, right? Our credibility matters, words matter without question. But how many of us are actually preparing for our conversations and practicing our delivery or getting coaching and feedback? Hey, Mel, when I just had this conversation, how did I sound when I'm communicating under stress? And as soon as we ask people for feedback, you'll be surprised on how much they've been waiting to give to you. So ask for that. And it's not about hurting your feelings. It's about being that much better so we can get the outcomes that we need.
I love it. What kind of went off in my head was you kind of have to temp check during the process. Like internally, you got to temp check not only your tone, the situation, how someone's receiving it, all of that, but you got to really have some like in the back of your mind, you really got to check yourself throughout this
Sure.
process and just make sure that you stay the course, you stay the path of the things that you're teaching us. Management 101. So I was very blessed, but this is old school stuff now. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, everything that worked back in the day, Scott just threw out the window. No, just joking. But Management 101, when I was 20, University of Phoenix, director of admissions, was anytime I got in these situations, I was taught to build, break, build. Have you ever heard of this?
A little bit.
So build the person up,
Like
break them down and leave on a high note and build them up. Now I'm going, oh gosh, that is far from what he is teaching right now, as far as sitting down and having a conversation that's uncomfortable.
And when you're dealing with emotional people, I don't feel the need to add more stress to the situation. I
Good.
don't feel the need to assert my dominance to show, hey, I'm in a stronger position, because it's about the outcome. Where are we trying to go? If my goal is to have everybody fear me,
Mhm.
okay, then I can go about my business in an entirely different way. But I come from a world where if we don't get this resolution, there can be violence. People could be hurt or killed, and we have seen that. So everything matters here. And you don't want to take a chance, and you don't want to take a risk and do something silly, because what you say matters. Every word matters. How you say every word matters. Every pause, every inflection. And when you do this for years and years, you realize how critical our communication is. And sometimes we don't know what that one thing is that's going to help this person turn that corner and get us to a good outcome. So we continue to study this and find out what's working and what's not.
I scream this from my platform everywhere. One of the biggest shifts that I've had over all of these years in the workplace as someone in leadership is stop managing people and start mentoring people. And that
Uh,
takes the build, break, build right out of it. And it says, hey, I love what you said here, and I wrote it down, and we'll move on to the last one. But our goal is to build safety, to build a safe environment, to find a resolution, to come off of the mountain or the cliff, right? We need to build that safety and that trust. And that's amazing. So what's our last one?
so last one is, it's simple. It's respect your partner. And it begins by how we frame it. This is your negotiation partner, your communication partner. It's not them, that guy, those people, that team, them over there. We together have, without us together, we're not going to get to where we want to go. We are a team. You are my partner. And again, there's nothing about any of these four principles that are earth-shattering or new to anybody. I just want you to see it differently how I see it. And for me, respect is about emotion. It's more than just being respectful. And yes, we want to do yes, please, no, thank you, the respectful piece. But respect is about emotion. So think of it this way. Let's do the opposite of respect. And think about, for people listening in right now, think about the last time you were disrespected. And hopefully this doesn't happen often in your world, but you can remember a time that you were disrespected. Now, if we make decisions with logic and reason, how would you know that you were disrespected? If it's logic, you would say, well, I heard what you said. I heard how you said it. I heard when you said it. I thought about who else was in the room. I considered the history of our relationship. And, after all that, I concluded that, yes, in fact, I was disrespected. I mean, is this how people make decisions? No. Boom. Immediately, as soon, even before you got the words out of your mouth, I knew I was disrespected. Why? Because we feel disrespect. We don't think, we feel disrespected. So we feel respect. Respect is about emotion. So what drives emotion? And in our classes, we teach the fears, four different aspects of emotional drivers. And the fears stand for fairness, empathy, autonomy, and recognition. And these are the four pieces that drive human behavior. People want to be treated fairly. People want empathy, to know that, hey, you can see my side. You can get my pain and perspective. Autonomy, I've got the freedom to make my own decisions. So you were saying earlier, quit micromanaging people, hire them, build them up so they can make their own decisions. And every chance we get, we want to give people a choice to say, you can choose this or you can choose that. And at least they've got the freedom to say, I'm doing this because I chose it, not because somebody else told me. And the last one is recognition. And we really press leaders, do not go into problem solving until you begin with recognition. And that can sound like thank you for, I want to acknowledge, I want to appreciate, or I do appreciate. And once people hear some of that, then they might be a little bit more primed to get into problem solving as a partner with you, because so often they just are going to stop and say, well, I've been doing this, this, and this. We're going to recognize people. Harvard Business Review just had a survey about a half a year ago, and they said that the leaders that are in the bottom 10% in recognizing their people have an engagement rate of 29%.
Wow.
Leaders in the top 10% for recognizing people have an engagement rate at 70%. So on this one metric of recognition, one metric alone, your engagement rate is way, way near the top just by doing this one thing. So we challenge people. You want to show respect to your partner, make sure that you're following the fears, fairness, empathy, autonomy, and recognition. And that can change your world entirely.
SHRM 23 took it to another level, but SHRM 2022, their theme was being a partner in business. And so really just talking about how they're not your minions working for you, right? They don't owe you anything. They don't, like, that mentality shift of, no, you're doing this together. You're building something together. If you don't have that respect, I can imagine that the defense, I mean, just the wall is just up. Something
Yes.
from that I wrote down, I was pulling up my phone. So if I was distracted, that's why. You said, and a great way to tie this all up, you said in the TEDx talk that I had watched, the one key to an incredible and successful conversation starts with respect.
You can do everything else right. You can be a great listener, you can manage yourself, you can have a really nice delivery, but without respect, it doesn't mean anything because you're going to get you're going to get nowhere.
Yeah.
You're going to get no results. Now, respect alone isn't going to get you anywhere. You still need to lead the conversation. You still need to lead the organization. But these four pieces, I see them working together in a circle. And I have a nice visual of these four pieces of understanding where we're being good listeners, timing your strategy and managing yourself and knowing when to deliver that message. The delivery piece is not what you say, it's how you say it. And knowing the power of respect, I see them working as a circle. And I think that image is really important because that circle, we just keep going around and we keep touching on these principles as we have the conversation. And for me, that circle represents the bond that we are trying to create. Our goal is to create that bond. And once you have that bond, then you've got influence.
I think we forget sometimes too, we're dealing with another human, another person who ultimately is seeking and wanting and needs, like, it's our human need to have all the things that you've taught today, to have the emotion, to have the respect, to know that I'm being heard and understood. We're human to human. And, you know, it's just that this has been absolutely amazing. Is there any final thoughts specifically to our HR leaders? I mean, you gave a million things, and guys, you know that if you're registered through the Zoom portion of this, not if you're tuning in on any social media platform. So please make sure you're registering because we give you a free gift where our moderators go, and Scott, everything that you said and put out, they give them a gift of a takeaway to go put into the workplace. But is there any final thoughts or any best practices that could help them with dealing with emotions or creating a culture within the workplace of connectivity and bonding, the things that we talked about? Is there any final thoughts in regards to any of that for them?
Yeah, there's a difference between the knowledge and the skill. Sometimes we get comfortable because we read the book and say, oh, I read the book and I know about this. But are we putting it into practice? And sometimes we don't because it's not comfortable and it didn't work well the first time. And it didn't work well the first time, not because it's a bad tactic, it's because it's new. And don't put yourself down. You're trying something new for the first time and you're not going to be great at it. So I want to encourage everybody out there who wants to find great success in conflict resolution and difficult conversations to get out there and try one of these techniques, one of these tactics. In this conversation, I think we threw out 400 ideas for you, but find one that makes sense and give it a try and be willing to try something new. And I think that if we make that small shift in committing to improve our communication, and let's say it's just, I'm going to be a better listener, or I'm going to be more thoughtful of my delivery. If you start making these little changes, I promise you, people are going to notice. And at some point, somebody is going to say something to you, hey, there's something different. And what I want you to ask, good different or bad different? And they are going to say 100% of the time, it's really good. There's something, I like what there's something good here. What is that shift? So don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be stuck in, well, I'm pretty good at this. I don't want you to be pretty good at this. I want you to be amazing. I want you to find excellence in what you do because these are people's lives. You are the leaders of the people of the organization,
Yeah.
and your work is so impactful. on the retention, the well-being of these employees, not only to keep them off the ground, but to create your top level performing the top level performers. They're up here for a reason because they're getting your support, and we're doing these things. You are going to generate really, really positive results throughout your organization. So not only build your knowledge, but build that skill. And I'd love to connect. If you're out there, let's be sure to connect. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a very normal, real person. Reach out, and I'd
Yes.
love to have a chat.
Where else could they follow you other than LinkedIn? I know that you guys, he has an amazing ScottTillema.com, where he can get all your information, as well as YouTube. Go. He has other lessons that are just absolutely amazing. I did them on the treadmill yesterday. I just kept going through your YouTube. It was awesome. But guys, it's our vision here on the show for you to walk away and apply these things. So I love how we're ending this. We challenge you. He gave you an amazing idea. Take your leadership team and go and just pick one of these 4 things that he taught today and apply it and role play. Get really good at it and tell your entire team the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just become experts, because ultimately it is going to bring so much good to you in your position, in your role, as well as your workplace. Scott, thank you so much for this. Guys, thank you for tuning in to this month's episode of the Be Well with Mel show. Still so hard to say. So hard to say that show name. We will see you guys in August. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.